Everybody, if you're already joining, we're going live here for everything SVM. I'm just grabbing the link to share with the group. We're live. And Kenji, I'm sending it to you now. Jeff, sending you there. And all right, we're all set here, guys. Hey everybody, welcome again to Everything SVM. I'm your host, Alex Kahaya, with my co-host here, Omar. I'm the host of a podcast called The Index Podcast, and I'm founder of a company called ABK Labs, where we're focused on building open source tools for people who are building with the Solana Virtual Machine. Like I said, my co-host here is Omar. He's the founder of Mantis. You want to give a quick hey for anybody who's joining for the first time, Omar?
Hey guys, founder of Mantis, building a rollup on Solana. We shipped Solana IBC, so excited to introduce chain abstract user experiences, swaps, lending, yield aggregation, etc. Between Ethereum, Solana, and the Cosmos ecosystem through the Mantis protocol.
Awesome. And happy Friday. We made it a full week of daily live streaming, and the results have been pretty cool. I think we're at close to 7,000 views across all these live streams, which for week number one is pretty interesting. And just to recap why we're here, we're doing a series of live streams that focus on what's happening in the SVM space. We're seeing a number of teams that are working on L2s, rollups, permission environments, and other tech that is exploring how to extend the functionality you can get from Solana mainnet. And we just wanted to have a space that acts as a public forum for sharing ideas and exploring new ideas. For me, it's been like doing customer discovery in public, which is really cool as we start to build, tools that hopefully accelerate Solana in the SVM space. And our mission is pretty simple, and it's just to build useful open source software that accelerates Solana. Today, we've got Jeff from Turbine and Kenji from Nitro Labs. Jeff, maybe you go quick first, just like tell people your story and about Turbine.
Yeah, so my story is really long, so I'll try to keep it short. Spent 30 years as a private school educator in the States. Had some health stuff during the pandemic. Decided that helping run schools with a chemo box connected to my body on a emergency remote learning was not the way I wanted to live out the rest of my life. Former student got me interested in crypto. Built something on Polygon, got connected with the Terra guys, don't laugh. And really, the early iterations of WBA and Turbine was TBA, which was Terra Builders Alliance. After the crash, we just kept growing. Now we are Turbine on Solana. We offer, a lot of more professional development, university-style education for developers and researchers. We also have an innovation lab where we tinker and experiment with all kinds of stuff like this. And then we have a dev shop that's pretty well thriving at the moment. So plenty busy, running a hackathon right now for a talent hack. So this is a nice break in the day. Thanks for having me, Alex.
All right, Kenji, lay it on us. What's your story? Tell us about Nitro.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Alex and Omar, for having me on the show. I'll keep it short as well. I got into crypto actually through Solana. I was running a tennis business, and ultimately that kind of led me to crypto through peer-to-peer transactions. Was a very early contributor to Say, and then I've just come on to become the COO of Nitro Labs, and we're building Termina, which is the first SVM cloud, with this core focus on providing customizable Solana block space to anybody in minutes.
All right, I want to dig into that, and I bet Jeff and Omar do too. What does that mean? What is customizable block space?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole focus here is to be able to provide builders the opportunity to actually deploy rollups, app chains in customizable manners with the SVM. Because what you see is that there's a lot of demand for Solana block space on Solana, and there are, I would say, every once in a while, as a result of the demand on Solana, there's congestion and performance downgrades. And unfortunately, for a lot of Solana builders, that has been a challenge. And ultimately, what we see is that there's a lot of Solana builders that actually really need that block space, and they're building out solutions around utilizing Solana tech. So there are teams that are building data layers as L2s. There are teams that utilize price oracles and utilize permissioned Solana blocks in order to do that and provide value within the greater crypto space. So there's really this need to actually have more Solana blocks and Solana tech out there. And so ultimately, we just think that this is a great time to start to provide that to builders so they can just focus on building out killer applications.
Interesting. Curious what Jeff and Omar, like what questions come to mind with that explanation, like what you guys think about that.
Yeah, can you speak a little bit about like what the actual like architecture like technically sort of looks like maybe, and how you imagine it evolving over time, like next 6 to 9 months, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. Like from a long-term vision standpoint, Omar, I would say it's quite similar to what Conduit is doing, where Conduit and Caldera, where the focus is on having this front end where builders can come in, they can see and they can optimize and pick what they want as far as optimizations from the execution layer, as well as other pieces of what I like to call Solana as a service. So they're able to pick things like what client would work well for them, what type of indexer would work well, and various other things that like they might not have a lot of experience around being able to like understand what would be the best optimization for them, right? Because ultimately, a lot of new developers that come in, or even experienced builders, they might like know what they want, and they might not know how to do that because protocol engineering is quite challenging. And I've learned that kind of the hard way during my time at SEI. So being able to support the team and figure out different ways that you have to socially coordinate around different parts of the stack, it's certainly a challenge to spin up new block space. And that's why I was quite excited for the opportunity to join you and to build out Termina.
Yeah, I mean, my questions are not necessarily how or what you're going to do. It's more, are you going to basically decouple all the little pieces and have it be kind of a, plug and play and not no code, because that's not possible, but kind of that mindset where, I want to go in and I want to drop down and I want to grab this piece and this piece and this piece, and I want to tune it this way and tune it that way and tune it that way. And I want to, mess with the timing, and I want to mess with the, the block size and all that stuff. Is that kind of going to be the idea, that people can customize it in that way?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That would be the goal. So basically, yeah, it's really that there's this vision that I think a lot of different people within the Solana ecosystem are now supporting, like Anza, around breaking out the SVM as a module and then working in establishing different ways that could be utilized for builders, right? So, what we're really focused on as far as the overall Solana tech stack is actually what we're calling SVM Plus. So that's instances of customizing block space and also customizing the SVM in a way that would be beneficial for builders, right? So other teams that have been on here, like Sonic VM, Magic Block as well, are doing really cool things. And they're really focused on like aspects of providing value to SVM builders in terms of gaming, right? So, they're doing things like lowering latency, probably increasing block size. And we think that's like very valuable to growing out the overall Solana ecosystem, right? So we want to do something similar. However, like we want to provide even more customizability and also like support builders that are coming in from other ecosystems that like might have built somewhere else and now realize what really matters, right? Which is a fast chain that has low fees. That's ultimately how I view blockchain and what's valuable, given that like I came in, don't have any technical background, but like kind of just was really thinking about the space as far as like a user-centric focus. So, at Termina, we have this core vision around making the SVM more accessible. And, we really want to be able to provide that level of customizability to new and old builders in the Solana ecosystem.
Nice.
Thanks for explaining that. And I think there's a lot to unpack there, especially in those components. It's something that like ABK Labs is looking into as well, and we should talk to you guys about that in depth. Some of the stuff we're seeing, I think you guys have probably identified a lot of the same problems. I want to hear from Jeff more about like there's a lot to your business. There's the dev shop, there's the sort of like recruiting and training devs part of it, which is super important. And then there's the innovation lab, like the R&D lab. And I just like across the breadth of work you do, what are you seeing in the SVM space? Like why do we need a Nitro? Why do we need a Sonic SVM and a Mantis and all these separate like chains and infrastructure to build other chains using the Solana Virtual Machine and the Solana blockchain?
Look, I mean, I think it's fair to say that, our interest in this, as it is with anything that we do, is, we look around the ecosystem and we say, what kind of service can we provide that's not necessarily, build a product and get paid for it kind of thing, but more like what are services that people need that a lot of people don't want to do, quite frankly, because it's not sexy and glamorous and there's no token and all that stuff. But what is needed? Where can we bring value? And I around the time that ore supply was causing all the congestion and all that stuff was going on in conjunction with some upgrades, because all that was kind of a cacophony of catastrophe, so to say. But the thing for me was I got tired of waking up and looking on Twitter and seeing, many thanks to these 2 or 3 teams for stepping in and helping out. Mind you, these are teams that have their own businesses to run. And so we said, we need more soldiers at the front. If ore supply is causing this to happen right now, we need to train more people that are able to jump in and help, because 10 years from now, ore supply is going to be nothing as far as the kind of congestion that could potentially be caused. So that's where we started our journey, with looking at the SVM deeply and finding opportunities for us to, our motto in the R&D is question everything. If you think about Solana having built, close to 6 years ago, that's 3 cycles of Moore's law. What kind of defaults and what kind of, constants were set back then that are now wasteful, that can now be tuned and brought up. And ANZA is an incredible team. But we all need to participate in this process and finding things and helping to solve, and at least bringing things to people's attention for there to be open discussion. And so that's really where we got into it. And then not long after that, we started hearing a lot of people talking about, what we're here to talk about, which is, I hate this term, but it is what it is. SVM is an L2 or a rollup, as another layer. The reason I hate that is because the connotation from what EVM needs these things for kind of makes people think, well, why does Solana need that? Well, Solana's pursuit of these solutions is very different. We don't need to scale for speed or cost efficiency. We don't. We're not solving a problem. We're creating more opportunities and use cases for a really strong infra, a really strong chain. And I think that's what we're doing. And it's not to scale; it's to spread. And that's a lot of fun. And so, what do? We're looking at all the pieces. We're talking to a lot of people. We're talking with Turbin and Nitro guys. One of the guys from Sonic is in our next cohort, which is the second half of the R&D program. We want to get the smartest people in the industry in rooms together on a weekly basis to get really deep into these things and explore. You ask the question, what are they for? Why are we doing this? Well, I mean, people have a vision to do things better. Do we know how it's going to turn out? We don't. But, you go back, I'm going to be cliche here. Satoshi didn't know how it was going to work out. He saw a problem. He said, I think I have a solution. He threw it out there and it caught. Ethereum, EVM, Vitalik and Gavin and those guys. I see a problem. I think we have a solution. We're going to throw it out there and see what happens and grow with it and take a lot of lumps. We're all in beta, right now, still in 2024. So, that's kind of our mindset. It's like, half the stuff we're talking about in these classes, in these cohorts, may not work. More than half won't work, to be honest. But you really just got to find a couple things to make an impact and try to be of service. And along the way, people are becoming expert in the stack to be able to go and be of service for other people, not only skill-wise, but also mindset of, I'm going to question this stuff and see if I can find a better way.
So just to like double tap on all that, I think this is why you and I hit it off like the first time we
Yeah,
talked. Because number one, we're both former teachers.
yeah.
I've taught like every grade, kindergarten, all the way up to grad school. Um,
Mm.
and number two, though, like when I was looking at what I was going to sink my teeth into next, I've been working at the foundation for years. And I kind of like worked myself out of the job over there, and I was like, all right, what am I going to do next? And my question I was asking myself was like, what can I do to contribute to the ecosystem? What is the best way that I can make an impact on this space? And for me, I felt like the best way to do that was to build a company that focuses on open source software and employs good engineers, brings good talented engineers into the space to build open source software. This is something I think I know how to do. Like I have a head for that. And it's what, like, you guys probably see me tweeting about this, like build useful open source software. It's all I want to do and for Solana, right? And I think that you're on point with this. Like we don't know where it's going to go. We do think it smells like there's a need here, and there's people who want to extend Solana and with these SVM chains. My thesis is that base case, we get a ton of really talented devs that become like core engineers, base case, and then they can jump in and contribute in that way. I do think that if this does take off, then there will be a ton of economic value that comes to the ecosystem, to mainnet, like actually to mainnet, also to the network effects of mainnet. So all these teams who've been grinding and building for like 5 years, if we get this stack of technology and the interoperability right, they will all have more opportunities, right? Like we will expand the market for them and bring them more business and more users and things like that. So, anyway, I'm talking a lot, but you definitely struck a chord for me, Jeff, with like why, and I think it's a great thing for the Friday wrap up session
Yeah.
we're doing.
The other part of that is, I'm an adoption maxi, and the fact of the matter is, the more you can make this useful and accessible to an increasing number of industries out there that aren't using it, where this could operate under the hood because it is that good. It is better than legacy solutions in many ways. The more you can do that, the more people are going to be using this technology. And 10 years from now, when my kids are becoming professionals, it's going to be normal part of their lives. And that there's SVM technology running underneath a lot of what they use on a daily basis. And that, for me, that's a huge reason for the L2 and the rollup environment, because it is a little bit of a, for lack of a better word, safer bet for people who are skeptical to come in and use it to jump on mainnet. Whereas, if I could have this sort of control of this environment but still take full advantage of this amazing technology that also has all these benefits, why not? That's a good segue in.
Jump in there, Omar. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
busy
no,
tweeting.
I definitely feel pretty strongly about that as well. I think one of the things that um, we need to do in general, like from a technical perspective, is we need to decouple SVM from Tower BFT and the validator client. Like, um, these are things that make things very difficult to actually modularize things. Um, so, as an example, like rollups are supposed to be secured by the L1. At the moment, like the Sovereign SDK team, Nitro, and we're also helping as part of this effort as well, is trying to find a way to basically add like ZK, fraud proving layer to the SVM. Now, the challenge with that is ensuring that the L2 rolls back sufficiently based on something that the L1 did not verify is dependent on a change in the consensus engine that the sequencer actually operates, which, unless you are ripping out Tower BFT and putting something else in, is really, really hard. And so, like, I think that in general, there's so that's something we're doing, right? Like we're working with the consensus engine directly to make that happen. But if we're thinking about actually modularizing the SVM, like we need to go many, many additional degrees deeper into the stack to modularize these things. Tower BFT is not necessarily the best, consensus engine for a rollup. Like maybe you want to run like Espresso's hotshot engine for their sequencer. So I don't know, just curious, like if you guys are also encountering some of these issues, like how do you guys foresee, or like what's the roadmap that you guys foresee like needing to sort of deal with these things? Yeah, just curious. Maybe Kenji, considering you guys are working very closely with Sovereign.
Yeah, absolutely, Omar. I think that is a core challenge of being able to create a modular approach to the SVM. I think that's why we're on a call like this where we can kind of jam around the actual challenges of how to ship something that was really focused on being vertically integrated, right? I think that's why it's great that we have multiple different teams that are thinking about implementations for this, as well as like what does the future of a kind of an ecosystem of sequencers contribute to. I think we're at that part of the development within the overall blockchain space where being at ECC, everybody's discussing what type of implementation makes sense for sequencers. So, does a centralized sequencer still make sense for a lot of teams? Do shared sequencers make sense? What are some other creative ways that we might need to continue to research about that could provide, the right decentralization affordances that benefit the growth of the space itself, as well as obviously what we're all aiming for, which is applications that can scale. To answer your question, I think that as far as breaking out the SVM, I think that is one of the core challenges and something that would be great to collaborate further about within our group here.
Well, I think this is actually a really good segue into something Jeff and I were DMing about earlier, which is that I think you wanted to talk about, which is the process of the research you do, because we are in a community-driven coordination and research process, right? Like identifying the different challenges, breaking them out, seeing what ideal solutions might look like. I mean, there's been some chatter in the SVM community chat about things like interoperability, right? So what is your process at Turbine? And I guess a second wish list question for me is how do we turn that process into coordination and shared repositories and open source tools?
Yeah. So, I mean, our process is we bring a lot of people, and our pipeline is basically people come in through our builders cohort. Most people, although less so now because we have a reputation and people know when they come to us, they're going to get what we tell them they're going to get. We identify the best people from that group, and they continue on working with us in additional programming. Our capacity to bring in top session facilitators and tell those people we won't, no holds barred, when we have, the Anza guys or Toli or the Mango client guys, when they come in, we say no holds barred. I'd rather people leave with more questions than answers. And I'd rather you leave questioning what you do yourself, that our people are engaging you. It's a very professional education environment, more PhD style at that R&D lab level. And really, we get in there and people need to prepare each week. I told our people, our 15 guys in that last group, in order for you to get MEV from this experience, maximum extractable value from, having a session with the guy who built all this stuff, when Toli came, I said, y'all better study. And here's what you study. And here's what you need to, be able to understand. So you're in a conversation, you ask the right questions and you understand the answers. So that's part of how we do what we do. The second half of that which is starting in a couple of weeks, is the development side of it, which is, we're gonna hit advanced Rust for Solana, which is we're not gonna teach people Rust. People need to know Rust really well when they come in, and I'm interviewing everybody that does it personally, as if I was interviewing them to come work for us. Because what we want to be able to do there is say, okay, well, we came up with these multiple theses last time around. How do we build it? What do we do? And let's do it. So we're going to use it's how to use Rust, and it's how to look at things like, the program context in the runtime that pulls in the program and executes it. Well, what is that doing that can inform the creation of a framework, maybe not Anchor, that is more use case specific to an SVM that has maybe more of a single purpose. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. Omar, to your point about consensus mechanisms, I'm a big fan of what SWE has underneath the hood. The reason I'm a fan of that is because you could have this fast pass transaction on a peer-to-peer. One of our R&D guys, that was his thesis. Like, what about a rollup that is just purely a peer-to-peer? What does that look like? What does that need? And 3 of the 4 of us on this call have some Cosmos roots. So there's a lot to learn there. Just from a technical standpoint, how the IBC grew, how token standards became very important. One of the things that, personally, and I need zero disrespect if this is sensitive to anybody, I don't think IBC is a bridge. I think IBC is akin to different same stack projects communicating with each other, whereas a bridge is you're going from apples to oranges. I think a bridge is harder. I think that, so we ask those questions and we dive into that a little bit. Now, what makes IBC as challenging is the token standard thing, which is where ICS is. So what's interesting to us on that level is, what does the SVM to SVM interoperability look like? Now, nobody's really asking about it, and there is no need for it at the moment. But I think there's going to be a need for it. If you extrapolate your thinking out.
I actually think like a lot of people are asking for it. Like, I mean, there's 100. Like, I think it's been for me, it's been one of the bigger patterns that's popped up in the SVM chat. Is like people saying, "Hey, how can I connect?" Well, a lot of it's to mainnet, but they all also want it. They have been saying like SVM to SVM. So it's been more in the context of mainnet, but to me, it should be the same thing, like, because mainnet is an SVM is the main is the SVM chain, and so maybe it is a lot more like what you're saying with Cosmos though, where it's like not really a bridge because it's more just like communicating between the similar stacks.
Yeah, but it's still tricky because like if you break it down simply for your higher level listeners, if you have a straight L2 style environment. One's permissionless. You have a rollup, one's permissionless. And Kenji, you were over on Say, that is a very uniquely tuned environment. So in order to make those, connections and channels and do the handshakes and all those things and have things going back and forth smoothly and safely, and where you're not locking tokens on one side. I think, one of the reasons I'm on a personal level very much against certain bridging mechanisms is as soon as you lock something up in a single space, it's a major attack vector that people are just going to focus on. And that is, we can do better. In 2024, we can do better. And so, that's what we talk about a lot. What is the manifestation of that chatter? Right now, it's a lot of architectural designing. We're big believers on, you got to get a user story in an architectural design before you write a lick of code. Because really, at the end of the day, if you've been in this space long enough as a developer in any space, the code's the easy part. People that are new think it's the hard part, but people that have been around, that's the easy part. You got to have the right design. And if you're looking at an architectural design and it's a picture with a bunch of boxes and even more lines connecting things, that's not good. You want as few lines between the boxes as possible because those lines are your attack vectors. Those boxes are more protected. I see Omar shaking his head. He knows. I think he knows what I'm talking about. But I mean, that's really our process. And I mean, frankly, we're going to do what we did in Cosmos. We're going to spin up multiple test environments in our cohorts, and we're going to test all this stuff out. And we're going to try to break our own stuff. When IBC and ICS started, we spun up test chains, one in Go and one in Hermes. And again, if you know, you know. And we just started testing ICS, cross chain, relaying these messages. And that's what we do. We come up with ideas, we flesh it out, we build some chains, we come up with some things, some test environment. It's a lab, like a pure lab. Omar, you
Well,
want to ask
so
something?
I wanted, yeah, I want to jump in there, but I know Omar's got a hard stop right now
Yeah, sorry, I gotta
at
go.
12:30, so he's got to bounce. But Omar, thanks, man. We'll see you next
Thank you,
week on
guys.
Monday.
Take care.
See you, man.
Omar,
Good
Yeah.
weekend.
it's
Bye
a
bye.
pleasure. Congrats on the IBC Solana connection.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
totally, man.
Take care.
See you guys.
Jeff, I'm curious. Like, it sounds like the R&D, the research stuff is like your team, but also people who come through the cohort that are like a part of other teams, like Sonic and other teams. And so, how do you participate? Like, how do you include other teams? Is this like you pay to be part of this R&D process, or like how does this work?
I mean, frankly, it's mostly people coming to us. Our team is busy. I mean, our senior team is busy. I mean, do we talk strategically about these things? Yes. It is not the priority of, our CTO and our senior engineer to engage in this stuff. Basically, we bounce stuff off them. But really, this is the people that have been with us for 6 months or new people that are coming in from these other teams who are CTOs and senior engineers and solutions architects that want to get involved in this. And we get in rooms and we put really smart people together. We bring in really high level facilitators to be able to help us flesh ideas out. So that's really how it works. I mean, this next group that we have coming in, we have 8 new people so far coming in, and they are all, very successful working. It doesn't cost anything to participate. We because we're looking to make an impact and we're looking to create value in the ecosystem. And my personal thesis on business, and this is very anti-crypto, is make yourself really valuable with services and people will pay you to stick around.
Yeah.
That's really,
I mean, what you're talking about sounds super valuable to me. I definitely want to get some of my team talking to you about joining some of these sessions because we're looking at a lot of the same problems and we're even doing some of the same testing, right? Like we're spinning up our own chains and doing permission environments, running experiments and stuff. And we're 100% open source company, like open in everything, in every possible way. So we want to share
everything we do will be open source when that time comes. I've been talking with Kyle and Kevin's going to come and do the program. So yeah, we're
oh, cool. There
we're ripping.
Nice. Kenji, question about Nitro. How far along are you guys? Like, where are you in the process of development? Can people sign up and use this? Or what does your timeline, your roadmap look like?
Yeah, so I think, definitely, sorry, a little bit distracted by something. As far as development in the roadmap, it's been ongoing for the last couple of months. There's been significant progress. We should have further announcements about DevNet soon, but we're looking to have people come in and contribute and help us figure out where there really is value within the SVM and customizing it. So that's something that we're excited to kind of keep our community updated about. And from there, it's really about kind of listening to developers, figuring out exactly what they want within a customizable Solana block space environment, whether that's a rollup or an app chain over time, to really figure out where is the value for these type of instances as we expand the pie within the Solana ecosystem. So we have, I guess I would say, significant interest from builders that are working in DePIN, DeFi, meme coins, infrastructure that enables the launch of these types of SPLs as well. And so, I think with them wanting to come in and spin up things in our DevNet, we're going to really figure out how to optimize the kind of developer experience and figure out how to provide more value back to the overall ecosystem as a whole. And I think we're already seeing a lot of teams that have been doing this more so in silos as a result of some of the challenges of breaking down the SVM. And so I guess I think you guys have already seen this. Anza Lab released an SVM piece about kind of creating out the SVM and also defining what the SVM is. So I think that we're going to see more and more people write about this and contribute, which I think is another way to do research, Jeff. So basically being able to share thoughts and ask the overall internet community about what to build and what to do is also another great way to do research, to where we have people that are experts in this comment and discuss new ideas and kind of the additive positive sum that is open source software.
Let's dig into some ideas here too. We talked about interoperability a little bit, Jeff, which I think is a huge one, and we've talked a bunch about modularization. Am I saying that right? Of the of Solana. What are some other like open source tools or standards that you guys think are missing? And maybe Jeff can go first. That like we should be working on as a community.
I think what's going to ultimately happen is, you know, each environment's going to need their own, each smart contract environment is going to need its own framework that fits their needs. Now, some will continue to use Anchor. You'll have your teams that use a native Rust approach. If you look at something like Saga XYZ, which is a gaming ecosystem in Cosmos, where they have kind of this. It's a little similar to what Turbin has, except it's more like people come and spawn a chainlet off, and they share the security with the Saga mainnet. And the Saga mainnet that's all they're there for. It's not doing anything else. Almost like the Cosmos hub. But each environment has its own use case, and so. Do you want a highly opinionated smart contract framework, which Anchor is, but Anchor is the perfect example of something where everybody can do it and ship fast? Or do you have a more niche use case where you're not going to have a lot of different types of applications in your environment? And so you can have maybe more of a smart contract framework that fits your needs better. Maybe it is more towards a pure Rust. If you get super gigabrains that are C maxis, they can come in and make a C framework. I think the framework side of things for the smart contracts is gonna, sooner or later become something that people need to explore for their particular use cases.
What about you, Kenji? What's missing that we need to work on?
Yeah, there's a lot of different exciting use cases for the SVM, in my opinion. I think Joe from Onza also mentioned some of these things. So jamming with people within the Avalanche ecosystem for a while, there's interest for the SVM as subnets, or now what they're calling L1s. So I think the team out there just rebranded, and excited for them. But I think SVM's Avalanche L1s are pretty exciting, especially with their warp messaging
SVM
system.
Running on Avalanche?
Yep, that's right.
This is the thing that started to blow my mind. It's like the Rome protocol diagram is kind of a similar thing to me. It's like Rome being Solana being the sequencer of all of the L2s, everything basically that's like on top of Ethereum. There's something so bullish about that,
I agree. I mean, I think it's sort of like the comments around IBC, and that maybe potentially IBC is more than just bridging, where I view it as messaging and valuable messaging, right? And so, you might have a team that wants to do a SVM subnet where there's some more collaboration around bringing perhaps like the warp messaging system that Avalanche uses to the Solana community as well. So I think there's a huge design space for the SVM that's additive. Additionally, things like off-chain services and diet and the use of diet clients. So from my understanding, that is things like Mithril and perhaps Tiny Dancer. So you have kind of even more use cases within the design space, and one that sort of follows that the thesis of modularity that you're seeing in the Ethereum community as well, where perhaps there's new instances of data availability that can further scale the L1 that is Solana as well. So I think there's just like a huge and I would say it's just a massive design space what SVM Plus can provide to the ecosystem, and even outside of the ecosystem. At Termina, though, we're really focused on really providing value back to Solana, because I think we need to be working with experts within the Rust community to really further improve the magnitude of the innovations, and further scale Solana vertically, and also in this integrated future that I think that we're all envisioning here on the call.
Look, we're getting towards the top of the hour here, and I know, Jeff, you've been on grinding all week with the work you guys have. So I'm gonna wrap here and just ask my last question that I always ask, which is what have I not asked you that I should have asked? We can let Jeff go first. What have I not asked yet that I should be asking?
Um, what do I think is going to be the first big use case?
Go.
Gaming. I think gaming is going to be the first big use case. You already mentioned Sonic and Magic Block. Those are two great teams. I think gaming is also
Stud
something
teams, dude.
that
They're really good.
stud team. I mean, and great dudes too. Like, love working with them. And frankly, with what we're trying to do, that's really important because if you have people that you really enjoy doing stuff with, you're going to get a lot further. And I think gaming for a couple of reasons. First, I think the biggest demographic of the next wave of adoptions, your 14 to 18-year-old that are gaming, that it's going to be easier for them to spin up a wallet than to open a bank account, which used to be the BS excuse why people didn't use crypto. These are kids that have been using digital assets and talking and communicating across the wire and sending V-Bucks and and all that stuff, and also feeling rugged when their game gets discontinued and they lose all their assets. Meanwhile, in the other room, they're hearing their parents complain about the economy and politics and stuff like that. And as kids, they're going to be looking for something different. And I think that is going to be the big flock, and it's going to be through gaming and having a dedicated environment that is gaming specific will be an easier, more comfortable foray for that group. I think the UX will be tailored to be more designed for that user, which is meaningful. It will help draw more people in. And frankly, just from a pure technical standpoint, to remove the, for lack of a better word, pressure on a chain to make games work the way Magic Block is doing it with the low latency and things like that. It makes sense to take that off of the mainnet and put it on a rollup, especially since you don't really need to fully settle all the outcome immediately and under a second, finally and on mainnet and all that stuff. So I think it's gaming.
What about you, Kenji?
I think it's an awesome point, Jeff. I was a huge gamer as a kid. Love RPGs, everything that I think a lot of crypto people know and love, like RuneScape, WoW, everything like that. And while I think gaming is super exciting, I think that we still haven't seen a killer game in the space. From my experience with Twitch and live streamers and a couple of my buddies that ran infrastructure within the overall gaming space and I guess Web2 games, I think that we're a little bit early there, but I'm super excited to find a team that figures out how to create incentives that make sense within Web3 for games. I think that we're going to see a DePIN or data layer that is the first killer use case for a rollup or a app chain. And the reason being is I think that those type of projects actually have more incentive alignment, where things like Hive Mapper Grass Network, they're kind of enabling use cases for Web3 and for tokens that align really well with human behaviors that people already do within their daily lives. So take Hive Mapper, for example. If you really like doing rideshare, it's your full-time job or it's a side gig. It makes a lot of sense just to have a Hive Mapper device within your car. So you're basically getting double rewards in some ways for doing something that you're already doing. So I think it's really hard to change human behavior. If you're doing something that you're kind of getting paid in network utility tokens for doing, that's a great killer use case. So I think a team that's clever and really smart with their network will be able to figure out a way to create a killer rollup or app chain that's focused on DePIN or the data layer first.
Great point.
Awesome, guys. Well, look, to the 477 people who are tuned into this right now, thanks so much for being here. Really fun doing these live streams. Kenji and Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time today. Thank you to all the guests from the SVM community chat who joined. To wrap up the week, there's lots of ways you can contribute. Ask not what Solana can do for you. Ask what you can do for Solana. That is the message I took from this this show today. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you early next week. It'll be 1:30 on Monday EST, a little bit later than the last couple times because I have a meeting from noon to 1. So anyway, see you guys later. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Alex. Take care, Kenji.
Bye.